away we go here for Xbox Division 3.
Still wheel to wheel coming out of turn 19.
Tries to go down the inside of Desio. Desio giving him space, but not by much.
Oh, and he's oversteered, and he spun. They're side by side, off the track, neck and neck.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another PPR Esports PC Division 1 race, streaming to you live from North America. Race number 6 of 22. This week we're going to be in Spain. We've got a great race shaping up for you tonight. Of course, we've got our Drivers' Championship leader, some idiot, in the room tonight. We've got some newcomers. Ruda, first race in Season 2 last week. Stas as well, driving for Mercedes this week. So, let's go ahead and get into what our drivers are going to be up against. This is Circuit de Barcelona. This is in Catalonia, I believe is how you say that. But in Barcelona, Spain. 33 laps. We're going to be expecting around 1 minute 14.3 for these drivers to shoot for. I'm not sure if we're going to quite get there, but look for things in the 114s at least. I don't know if we'll get to the 113s, but we'll find out come qualifying. 16 turns, 9 to the right, 7 to the left. Softs are going to go 9 laps. Mediums are going to go 15. Hards are going to go 21. Softs, this is the fewest number of laps on our calendar so far that the softs have been expected to go. And with 33 laps, I think we're going to see some really interesting tire strategies from our drivers tonight. So we got 36 laps combined with mediums and hards, but that doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't treat your tires nice throughout the race that you're going to actually be able to go that far. All right, moving into our drivers tonight, we've got Getchum and some idiot being very dominant this season so far with 3 wins under his belt and 2 third places. Getchum, his teammate, has definitely been overshadowed, but not to be forgotten, getting his fair share of points in the past few races. They're not able to make it last week, but pretty consistent points showing up until that point. McLaren, we've got Cream and Rogue. We've been seeing good things out of them so far. Good points finishes this week. Cream been flirting with the podium pretty much all season so far. 2 second place finishes. Other than that, a couple 4th place finishes and a 6th place finish. So decent haul of points every single race for Cream. McLaren, we've got Red Bull. After McLaren, we've got Red Bull, which is Stoney and Shay B, both drivers being very points competitive this season, a nice improvement from last season. We've got Renault, Captain Hood, and Dr. McShorty. Captain Hood will not be joining us today, but Renault has definitely scored their fair share of points to keep them in the running. Mercedes, we've got Destiel and Donstas. Destiel, one of the dominators of last year, hasn't quite been able to get the attendance he had last year. However, he did get a 2nd place in Australia and a 5th place in Bahrain. So if he shows up, I imagine he's going to be quite competitive. However, I think the stewards are going to look at his attendance. We might be backfilling that position in a couple weeks here. Don Stas placed 7th last week, so this is not his debut race anymore, but last week was his debut race. Now we've got AlphaTauri, we've got Corsac and Hammer Time. Corsac, another one of those drivers that last year had been very competitive, and a 5th place so far this year, but other than that, we haven't seen much out of him. Hammer Time 44 has attended and finished every single race so far, finishing as well as 4th in Australia. Couple races out of the points, and then a 7th place and an 8th place. Doing pretty well this season. Ferrari, we've got Simsbad and Buddha. Simsbad, 13th and 2 points finishes in Bahrain and Vietnam. Buddha has had his fair share of points as well, and with an 8th and a 9th place finish. Alfa Romeo, we've got PPR Nick and Double OT. Williams, we got Randoms and Gore. Haas, we have Ruda. There's the Drivers' Championship stack-up. Some idiot out front by a mile, but not uncatchable by the end of the season. Remember, this is only race number 6 of 22. Cream is at 68 points. Just behind him is Brownie, who's made an appearance in the last 2 races and been a dominant force. Rogue in 4th with 40 points. Hugo's with 36 points in 5th. Capita with 35. Stoney with 33. Destiel with 28. Hammer Time 22 in 9th, and Getchum in 10th with 15 points. We got Simsbad with 14th, Shea B with 12, Red Hornet and Corsac both with 10, tied for 13th. Fluffy Day with 8 in 15th. Buddha and Danstas tied for 16th. Danstas only after one race in PPR Season 2. Double OT, 18th, 5 points. Randoms 19th, 2 points, and Dr. McShorty 1 point down in, what was that, 20th. Then we have tied for 21st, a bunch of drivers that have not been able to put any points on the board yet, including Gore, Terry, Ruda, Nick, Doc Block, and Alexander. Constructors Championship stacking up to be very competitive this year. Racing Point 122 points with McLaren just behind him at 128. About one race win separates them between Racing Point and McLaren. Red Bull with 45 points, Renault 36, Mercedes 34, AlphaTauri 32. So really it's anyone's game as far as that goes. Not too far behind is Ferrari with 20 points, then dropping off a little bit Alfa Romeo, Williams, and Haas with 5, 2, and 0 respectively. So no constructor is out of it yet. It comes to each individual race, I think they're all going to count once we get further in the season. Again, Circuit de Barcelona. All right, we're at the Spanish Grand Prix, right? So 16 turns, 9 to the right, 7 to the left, as I mentioned at the beginning. This is one of the more interesting tracks that you'll see on the calendar. It's got a high, I don't know, what I'd call a flow factor, right? Getting out of a turn, how you exit it, really affects how you enter the next turn. So it's one of those pretty technical tracks that can be hard to keep the car on that line of traction throughout the whole race, but we're going to have our drivers give it a shot tonight. As you can already hear, they are on their outlaps for qualifying. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. As we can see, we zoom in on Hammer Time, who is on his outlap. We've got quite a few drivers on their outlap. We've got Kublai, Shea B, Ruda, Nick, Rogue, Stoney, Some Idiot, Gore, Donstas, and Destiel all in attendance tonight. There we go. This is going to be a little better. Drivers doing well to get out of each other's way, but we are getting a little bit of a grouping. I believe that is Destiel here. No, that's Donstas behind Hammer Time. Coming into Sector 3, I think the cars are going to want to space out a little bit. We've got a Renault goes off to the side. Whether it's intentional or not, I'm not quite sure yet. Looks to be intentional as the Renault is continuing to move. But it's going to have the hard time getting a hot lap from there. I mean, I guess you do have to go through the chicane, but you got to really warm up your tires in order to get traction around the last turn. So we'll see if Kublai is able to overcome that obstacle and get into the top 10 as far as times go. On board right now at Donstas, saw him qualify in the top 10 last week. Down into turn number 1 is a pretty fast right-hander with a left-hander immediately afterward that opens up. A right-hander where you're going to be at pretty much full throttle, but you're pretty much on the limit of that grip. You can't overdo it too much at the beginning, otherwise the back end of the car is just going to slip out on you. Same thing goes for turn number 4 here. Turn number 5, almost, let's see, a little less than 360 hairpin. Not quite going, or 180 hairpin, not quite going back the same way that you came from. Ooh, very tricky corner there. As you can see, Donstas was struggling after coming through turn number 7, a very high-speed left-hander with a little bit of a little past 90-degree turn, because then it juts into turn number 8 where it immediately jogs to the right. So if you don't take enough curb, or if you take too much curb, you can find yourself in trouble at that complex more often than not. Be on the watch for our drivers to be struggling through that corner, because it always seems to be something that trips someone up, or trips everyone up at some point during the race. Destiel coming in first right now at the top of the timesheet with a 1 minute 15.9, Stoney with a 116.2, and Shea B with a 117.0. Dr. McShorty currently on a hot lap, it looks like. At least he has all his modes turned up, but it looks like he may have backed it off a little bit. Seeing as he has the repair symbol, looks like he may be missing part of his front wing. Dr. McShorty probably has to go into the pits here to replace what is missing. Nope, decides it is okay. So whatever needs to be repaired there obviously isn't essential for his lap because he continues on anyway. Gaslight not on, which is a good sign he can run in full fuel modes for the rest of the lap. See how he handles this turn number 1 here. Yellow flag sector 1, very odd to see he's the only one in that sector. Coming around turn number 3 here. Line looking pretty good. He's going to have to line it up a lot more towards the outside to come into turn number 4 here. Cut across the apex. Hugged the inside of the turn quite a bit there. I think I would have liked him to see him go a little bit wider. Carry a little more of that speed through that turn. Let's see how he does here into turn number 7. One of the higher speed corners of the track. Nice. Takes just enough curb to be effective, but not so much curb to unsettle the car. Can always be a happy balance there. Some drivers can keep it pinned through that last turn there. Turn number 9, just keep their foot to the floor. But it can be very difficult to do because the rear end of the car is going to be put under such load that it really wants to slide out on you. And that's a turn that if the rear end starts to go, you're probably not going to catch it. And there's a gravel trap right there, so it can be pretty dangerous. Looks like Dr. McShorty here. He's going to set a timer, go into the pits. No time set yet. So far, 4 drivers with time set on the board. Destiel, Stoney, Shea B, and Creamy Johns won first through 4. Destiel way on front with a 115.9. Stoney, I guess 3 tenths behind or so with a 116.2. Shea B with a 117.0, and Creamy Johns with a 117.8. We're seeing possibly 114s here. I think we'd have to go a long way, but I wouldn't be surprised if some idiot were able to pull off a time like that. Considering he's going into sector 3 here. And this is going to be a flying lap. We look at his tire temps. We've got about 90 degrees on the left side and a little over 90 on the right. So looking like his tire temps are just right to do this hot lap. So you're going to see him come around the last couple corners here. You've got the final chicane. Goes through turn number 16 here. Opens up down to the straight. Opens the DRS as soon as he possibly can. Guns it down the outside. You're going to see him drift a little left here. He's going to want to take as much track as possible. Cut across the apex in turn number 1 here. Very nice. Turn number 2 opens up. Took just the right amount of curb. Keeps it pinned through 3 into 4, hard braking zone. Fastest first sector, purple first sector. Nice to see out of some idiot. It's going to be a fast lap. Lock up on the front left hand. Going around turn number 5 there, but not such a big deal during qualifying here. Ooh, takes as much curb as he dares. If the other wheel would have gone off, that would have invalidated his lap. That's not something you want to do at this point in qualifying. You only get a finite number of tires, and with the wear being so high on this track, the softs only rated to go 9. He's gonna need them. It's potentially 2 sets of softs. It'll be interesting to see what our drivers go with as far as strategy tonight. Coming into the final chicane here. Benstess outpaced Destiel just a little bit, but I have a feeling some idiot is going to go faster than them all. And he doesn't. He must have invalidated his lap at some point. Unfortunate from some idiot. Not able to get it done. Not able to keep it on the track. I kind of wondered. He really cut it close going around, I think it was turn number 9. No, turn number 8, that fast left-hander of 7. Right across the apex of 8 on the exit. I believe he took a bit much. If I had to guess, that's where it happened, but there's no guarantee. Wasn't paying that close attention. So quite a few drivers have yet to set a time. We've got Rooter, Rogue, Some Idiot, and Gore, as well as Dr. McShorty and Hammertime, all yet to set times. Drivers are going to want to get out sooner rather than later, but we have Donstas and Destiel both setting their fastest time on medium tires. I have imagined they're going to be very happy with that. You can start the race on mediums, probably be competitive with the people that qualified on their softs, just because the tire wear isn't already baked into your tires from the get-go. So you're able to run those a little bit longer, which means it'll get you to the hard tire and get you potentially on a longer stint. And yeah, go potentially longer on that stint and not have to pit as many times. It'll be interesting to see if we see 2 softs and a medium pit today, or if we see a medium and a hard pit. I think there's going to be a strong incentive for those medium runners to just do 1 pit stop, especially with Danstas and Dastiel, both being drivers that they are, carrying a decent amount of speed through the corners, especially at a track like this. We'll see them do just fine on those mediums. Dastiel comes out of the pit not happy with his time. It's hammer time, excuse me. Coming out of the pit in the Mercedes. Needs to set a time yet. Right now we're in the 1:15.9. Fastest lap so far. Some idiot has not set a time yet, but the way he was looking on the last hot lap looked like he was going to have something special if he could just string it all together. With 7 minutes and 19 seconds, he's got a chance for probably 2 more runs as long as he gets out of the pits here quick. As of right now, the racing point is parked in the garage with nowhere to go. Not going to be getting out of there at least anytime soon. So the longer he waits in the pits, the less likely he's going to be able to run 2 more laps. So the more likely, or the more I should say, he's putting into his ability to set a lap on this next try. Because if he doesn't, he's going to be in big trouble. You'll see a lot of the drivers come out, do a pretty conservative lap just to make sure they have something on the board. So right now, Dastiel, Stoney, Chevy, Kublai, Creamy Johns, they at least have something. To where if Hammer Time and Dr. McShorty, Ruda, Rogue, some idiot or Gort can't put anything together, they're going to at least be ahead of them. But now what they're looking to do is put on another set of tires and go way faster, than their original time. Where the bottom 6 or so, they need to just set a time. So they're going to be conservative going around some of those corners and potentially not going to squeeze as much time out of the lap as they otherwise could. Hammer Time comes down the main straight here. Going to see him head off into turn number 1 here. Using all the apron he can. Flips apex to turn 1 nicely. Follows the one at turn 2, a little bit wide though. Dastiel retired from the session. Looks like he's gone out in sector 2. Yellow flag there. Nice and tidy through turn number 5 from Stoney, or from Hammer Time. Oh, this is Stoney. Whoa! You saw the snap of oversteer on the exit to turn number 9. The same thing that caught Dastiel out just minutes beforehand. Goes really fast into that gravel trap. Hits the wall. Luckily, he hit it mostly perpendicular. Didn't look like it caused any major damage to the car, but he's definitely going to want to go get a new set of tires. And with 4 minutes and 55 seconds, he's going to need to go in quickly to get another chance at setting a time. Ruda set a time, but it's not all that great with a 1 minute 28.2, way behind the rest of the field. But at least he's got a time in, which currently makes him faster than 5 of our drivers who haven't set a time just yet. Drivers slowing down as they come up to their hot lap here. Looks like Hammer Time being one of them in the AlphaTauri. Comes down the main straight. He's going to get a good run at it. Next lap's to be set. We're going to see Don Stoss on another set of mediums there with a 1:15.7. Very impressive lap from him there. Kublai is currently in the pits, so Dr. McShorty is out there trying to make another attempt as well. We're going to try and get time set, so you can start a little more towards the front. With a field like this, we've got 13 drivers that are all really competent on any track, let alone this track, and getting those few points, those few spots before you even start the race is going to be huge. Some idiot finally gets a time on the board with a 121.1. Very slow time from some idiot, especially on those mediums. Let's see if he pits. He's going to need to come back out probably on a set of softs in order to start higher up the grid. Personally, I'd like to see that just because I want to see what kind of time we can get out of some idiot. However, Hammer Time sets a purple middle sector. Gonna go into the third sector with that in his pocket. Gonna try and capitalize on that. Creamy Johns with a 117.8. Dr. McShorty finally sets a time with a 117.3. Gore now setting a time with a 116.8. Hammer Time goes fastest with a 115.6. Very nice lap from him. Creamy Johns up into second with a 115.7. Eking out Gonstas by 1,000th of a second. Nice showing from Creamy Johns. Really been interesting to see. Creamy Johns has been one of the probably most improved drivers from last season. Last season he was consistently hanging around 8th or 9th. But lately he has been able to solidify himself in the points of just about any race and the podium in over half of them. So watching him race at such a high level has been really awesome to see, because some of these drivers have taken a temporary step backwards with the enforcement of the rule no racing line, something that we toyed with doing last year but never quite made it around to, but something that we are doing this year. This is a no assist league. That means no racing line, no ABS, no traction control, nothing. So it's just you and your inputs. So that means they just have to be that much more precise, and your awareness of where you're at on track has to be that much better as well. You got to be looking not just a few few feet ahead, but a few turns ahead if you possibly can. Be trying to visualize where you go because you don't have that racing line. Rogue sets the fastest middle sector as well. Let's see where he goes. Gonna be going through the last chicane here. Nice apex on the exit. Last turn here down the straight. DRS wing open. Rogue goes 6th fastest with a 116.1. Nice lap from him. His teammate Creamy John still able to go faster. Hammer Time setting a nice lap with a 115.6. Some idiot with a 115.0 on the mediums. Very nice lap from him. Going to try and up it right now. Not going to quite get it done. The 115.0 sticks. However, that will be some idiots. This will be some idiot's last chance at a faster lap on these mediums. Put that much gas in the car to take these tires the extra lap. So by the time he is starting the race, he will have 3 laps on these mediums, but that's not so bad if he plans to do a one stop onto the hards. He has a few laps to play with. The mediums and the hards will go 36 laps, and of course we're racing 33 laps tonight. So 3 laps on the mediums starting out really isn't that bad. No skin off of the tires back. Some idiot with a 115.0 looking to capitalize on his position on the track. Free of traffic right now. Coming down into turn number 10. Fastest middle sector he goes. Not surprising. See some improvement from some idiot with a little bit less fuel on board around turn number 12 here. Turn number 13 takes as much curve as he dares into the final chicane. Very nice around the last turn. Goes across the finish line, goes faster with a 114.8. Finally, we had one of our drivers break into the 114s. Still have quite a few more drivers yet to set a time. Looks like Creamy Johns may have invalidated his lappers on the in lap. Not gonna continue his any further. Hammer Time currently on a hot lap. Gonna try and unseat some idiot. Stoney no longer has a chance to go any faster. Neither does Rogue, Shea B, or Gore, or Kublai. Dr. McShorty, the only one with a chance of going faster and improving his position. Ruda and Nick both solidified as well in 12th and 13th. It'll be interesting to see if Nick is going to be able to fight his way back up through the ranks to get into the points positions. Run wide from Hammer Time here. I think he wants to stay out of the way of the Renault of Dr. McShorty, who does appear to be on a on an in lap. Yep, decks the inside, so Dr. McShorty will stay 11th fastest. At that point, if there's not going to be a significant improvement, I'm a fan of ducking into the pits and staying in 11th, because that way you get to choose what tire to start the race on. So if he wants to, he can start on the hards if he's banking on an early safety car. The safety car could then put him at the beginning of the race, or excuse me, the head of the race, with relatively new hard tires. Not a terrible strategy, but it really depends on what's going to happen during the race. All drivers finish. Some idiot, Creamy John, starting in the front row. Hammer Time Donsta starting on the second row. Destiel and Stoney in the third row. Rogue and Shea B in the fourth. And so on from there. So Some Idiot, of course, our driver's championship leader with 107 points. If he is able to hold on to the lead throughout the rest of the race, that is going to look very good for him. Creamy John's, of course, in second. Brownie, who's not here, is in third. Rogue in seventh right now. He is fourth in the driver's championship. Capit Hood, of course, not here, but Stoney, a really good chance to overtake potentially Rogue if he's able to get in the points tonight and keep it out ahead of Rogue. So if Stoney gets into fourth, he's going to leapfrog Rogue as far as driver's championship position go. Should be in eighth. The strategies we'll see out of our drivers are really going to depend on how hard they're fighting on track. Barcelona is one of those tracks that has a lot of chances for overtaking. You have a lot of long sweeping turns, right, which can be interesting for a few reasons, right? If you get in the slipstream of a car, you're going to have less downforce. So you got to be more careful about that. However, it gives you a chance to get the the top speed to a higher level when you're trailing a car like that. So between turns 9 and 10, there's a little bit of a straight with the DRS activation. And between the last turn down the main straight, there is DRS activation as well. So seeing the cars run closely down those straights, you're going to see big moves into turn number 1, which is relatively fast right hand to the right. However, it is still a right hand, so you'll see some moves from our drivers here. So let's follow around and talk about where we're going to be looking at from the driver's perspective on where we're going to be wanting to make these race moves. As our top 4 drivers go down into turn number 1 here, this is going to be a place that we're going to be monitoring heavily for position changes. The long run coupled with the sharp turn really makes it the prime time for making passes, especially when you have a pretty much full throttle zone afterward. If one driver gets a better run out of the corner than the other, they're likely to pull ahead. Right through turn number 4 here, coming on the exit, I think this is a very difficult point to pass just because this next hairpin of turn number 5 is so tricky. But then you have a little bit of a jaunt through turn 6 here, then turn number 7. 7 is very tricky to pass on. However, you can set yourself up very well to get a run on somebody down turn number 8 there, around turn number 9. And as you come over the top of the hill here, you get the DRS activation point. Just kidding, no DRS there. I lied about that. Down on turn number 10, sharper than right hand to the left. Little jaunt to the left around a carousel to the right of turn number 12 here. Turn number 13 is going to be a right-hander. This one will be interesting to see if we see a lot of passes here. I think more we're going to see setups going into the chicane. Chicane's notorious for just being one of those features of a track that you can easily play games with another driver because you're switching back and forth across better positions on the track. What I mean by that is one driver gets the apex one turn and then another driver gets the apex the next turn. So sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing when you're the driver in front. Makes it easier to hold off some drivers, but on the other hand, can make it harder. Right now we've got Rowe way back here. Way behind the field here. Supposed to be in 7th right now. Surprising it didn't just teleport him back to the grid. Instead it's going to drive him up. Let him rejoin that way. Getting an advantage a little bit on tire temperatures because the other cars have to sit here and let their tires cool off a little bit. The lights are on. Ooh, held them for a long time, and they're out, and away we go down to turn number 1. We've got some idiot pulling out in front, but Creamy John's looking like he might just get a nose on him down into turn number 1. Is going to take the inside as well, which we all know is very important. Some idiot pulls it out at the end. Creamy John's braking a little early. Hopefully with the intent not to run too closely on the apex. Double wide from Stony Gore, Rogue, and Destiel as the Renault gets shot out to the side of Dr. McShorty. Dr. McShorty is now retired from the session. We'll see if the safety car has to come out to clean that up. That may benefit some of our drivers. Let's take a look at the tire they've decided to fit. A lot of our drivers running that medium tire, partially because they used it in qualifying, and also because if they started outside the top 10, they're able to get free pick of tire. Looks like it worked out pretty well for some of our drivers here. Kublai picking up the position. Nick not minding so much. Rogue dropping down quite a bit. The yellow flag in Sector 1 has been cleared, so that shouldn't play too much of a factor anymore. We've got, in 4th place, we've got Hammer Time, running just behind Donstas. Currently in DRS range, however, DRS will not be activated until turn number 3. Destiel and Gore going at it here. Destiel getting the pass done on Gore. I think Destiel is one we're going to have to keep our eye on for a really good performance tonight. Destiel knows how to work his way through a field and really get those passes done. And I think this track is going to play into a lot of his strong suits as a driver. Shea B currently letting the gap go to 1.4 between him and Gore, but Gore with quite a big mistake down into turn number 1. Shea B is going to be able to close that gap below 1.4, I imagine. Looks like Donstas is down, not quite down, getting moved out of order in the timing line. Looks like we've got the AlphaTauri of Hammer Time right now, currently running 4th. So you can see pretty consistent intervals between our top 5 drivers here. Destiel getting ready to make a pass on Stoney just about any day now. He's going to look to get a run on him down the DRS range here, even though he doesn't have DRS available. Gets him done in the braking zone. You can see the Red Bull in the mirror of Destiel there. Very nice pass from him into turn number 10. One of the things that you're just going to see from the DRS zone. When it is that long of a run down into that sharp of a turn, you're going to see drivers like Destiel taking advantage of that. Destiel still with a little bit of a time to make up with 1.3 seconds between himself and Hammer Time, but he's already cut that down by 1/10 of a second in half a lap. So I imagine another lap or so that's going to get him within DRS range, and we'll start to see the gap fall from there. Hammer Time not doing too bad of a job of staying on Donstas either. Donstas only 0.7 seconds ahead of Hammer Time. Currently, some idiot has broken the DRS range. Cream John's not going to be able to get it. Ruda with a 3-second time penalty, not going to help his case. In 9th, just barely clinging onto the points position in the Haas car tonight. We've got Kublai only 6 tenths behind him as well. Going to look to challenge him for that spot any minute. Gore with a 3-second time penalty already. Very, very early for these drivers to be picking up these penalties. That's going to haunt them later at the end of the race. They're going to wish they did not cut the corner so many times. Hammer Time still remaining very, very close, but Kublai looking like he's getting ready to pounce on Ruda just as much as Ruda is looking to make the pass on Shea B. Donstas with a 3-second time penalty. Hammer Time's really going to like that if he's going to hear that through his race engineer. It'll be interesting to see what kind of decision he makes, if he's going to push quite as hard to get past him or not. If he's got the pace, of course, he wants to push past him just so he doesn't have to worry about Destiel and Creamy John so much. Hammer Time gets the pass done up into 3rd. Ooh, overcooks it a little bit, runs into Donstas, breaks off part of his wing. Very unfortunate. Donstas now missing an end plate. I imagine he's going to have to go back and collect that. Hammer Time is missing part of his wing as well. Went down with that ship, is not going to be happy about that. Looks like no debris is on the track that the stewards are going to have to clear, so we are going to remain under green flag conditions for the time being as the Alfa Romeo of PPR Nick goes around. You saw him coming around at turn number 4 there. That high speed, it's that hairpin that you really have to pick up your speed on the exit on. Just lost the back end. Not able to keep it together for him there. Very unfortunate from Nick. Yellow flag sector 2. Nick just can't get it together, can't get the temperature in those tires and get back around the track. He's going to have to get that under control if he wants to stay in this race. Something he struggled with in the races so far this season is tire temperature. Shea B running wide going into the chicane here. Ruda going to look to capitalize on that. Doesn't quite get it done. Is maybe going to get it done in the DRS zone down the straight here. However, Ruda's going to have to defend from Kublai as well. Kublai using his overtake button a little bit at the beginning just to give him some boost to hopefully close that gap. It looks like Ruda had the same idea. Ruda's going to go down the inside on turn number 1. Gets a pass down on Shea B, but Kublai runs it very, very deep. Gets a pass on Shea B. Shea B has to overcompensate by running wide, which gives Rogue a chance to slip in there into position number 8. It's a three-way battle for 6th now, as Shea B is not going to be able to hold on to that for too much longer. Rogue puts his money on the Ruda train, and they both get through the open door that Shea B leaves there. Kublai almost gets through there as well. Shea B not able to hold either of them off, but Rogue not quite happy with just the one position he got. He's going to need another, and he's going to need it from Ruda. Looking left and right to get a move done. Coming around turn number 9 here. Going to go down the DRS activation. Gets the DRS benefit. Not going to be able to get close enough to Ruda, but is going to be worried about Shea B behind him. Shea B definitely goes deep into the turn, but Shea B makes it out without hitting him. Rogue gets the benefit out of the turn there, and Hammer Time's going to put his nose in there and say hello to Shea B as well. Shea B losing positions left and right with that soft tire. It's already starting to fall off that cliff. Only rated for 9 laps. 4 laps it's going to see somewhere, especially with a couple laps already in qualifying. Ruda and Rogue at it into turn number 1 again. Rogue is going to get the entry. Ruda cedes the position, cedes the racing line anyway, right to the apex of turn number 2. Into turn number 3 here, Rogue comfortably ahead. Ruda gaining maybe a little, maybe half a tenth a second or so down the straight. Into turn number 4, all drivers picking up the traction zone pretty well on the exit, doing well not to put too much down and keep the rear end of the car under them. Ruda with a 3-second time penalty. That's his second one so far. 6 seconds worth of time penalties is really going to hurt Ruda in this race. Ruda goes into the wall. That's going to hurt his race as well. Ruda out of the race after his second 3-second time penalty with the safety car. This is exactly what we needed at the time we needed it to spice this race up. Some idiot diving into the pits for the pretty much free pit stop. Gonna change his tires. I imagine it's gonna be on to the mediums. Gonna need the 15 laps plus the 9 laps out of the softs in order to get the end of the race. He might even put on the hards here. I can see a medium hard or even a medium soft. Really kind of awkward time. Puts on those hard tires. I think is not going to be the only driver that we're going to see do that. Creamy Johns follows suits, puts on the hard. Destiel, same thing, hard tire. Stoney in the pits. Gore in the pits. Pretty much everyone else in the pits up to Donstas and PPR Nick. We'll see if Donstas dives into the pits or if he fancies his chance out on track with that fresh set of mediums. I think there's probably no reason for Donstas to pit right now. Only going to lose positions. Might even pick up a few here, passing people in the pit lane. He's really got to use all of the delta he possibly can. Going to go as long as he gets to the pit lane line before them, he's going to be okay. Able to slot just behind Rogue nicely into 7th with a fresh pair of mediums. I think he's going to like that. Donstas is going to be able to take that real advantage of that, putting on those mediums, going up against the hard tire. Difference is going to be is that he's going to have to pit. So really the hards go 21 laps or so. That gets us to lap number 28. So I think people are going to be trying the hard then soft tire. Donstas, however, is only going to be going 15 or so laps on those mediums. That's not going to get him halfway through. It's going to get him only a little halfway over through the race. So at that point, he's going to need maybe a set of softs and potentially to stretch him pretty far. If he feels pretty comfortable on the mediums, I think he can keep going and keep them on his car for later in the race, but it would be interesting to see exactly how he's able to do that with some of these high traction zones here in Spain. Safety car here, a little bit of a blessing for some of the drivers in the back like Donstas and Nick. Kublai, Hammer Time, and Shea B all get a chance to pit as well. Hammer Time and Shea B opting for the hards. Kublai opting for the mediums, deciding that's where he wants to be at this stage in the race, especially going up against Nick, who has 6-lap-old mediums he's going to have to contend with. I'd rather have the brand new fresh ones. So let's take a look here. Drivers' Championship currently. Some idiot is in first with 107 points. Cream is in 68 with, is in second with 68 points. But then we got Brownie, Rogue, Capital Hood, Stony, Destiel, Hammer Time, all within 30 points of Brownie at that point, or of Cream, really. So it'll be interesting to see how this race affects that, because Rogue is here, he's in fourth, looking to hold on to that at the very least. Maybe you serve Brownie. Rogue only needs 10 points to do that, and he's not too many positions off from doing that where he currently sits. So definitely doable. I imagine the safety car is going to be in this lap, but I haven't seen any indication as of yet. One of the things that 2020 has thrown a wrench into is maybe not telling you when the safety car is going to come in. Oh, Rogue slides out. Oh, man. On the safety car lap. That's very, very unfortunate from Rogue. Slides out into the left. He's going to be allowed to catch up, I believe. If the Delta does it right, he was able to take one position back from Nick there, but I don't know if Nick was going too slow. But either way, I don't think he's going to have time, even if everyone was on the same page of moving Rogue back into the position that he formerly was. I don't think they've got enough time to do it, because the safety car's lights are out. That means we're going to be restarting here as we come through the final sector, turn number 12, as we're currently on. Drivers are going to need to warm up their tires. The safety car, I believe, is pretty much far away, getting further away. Some idiot has to time that right, because the safety car has to be in the pit lane before he can gun it. So safety car's in the pit lane. Some idiot can go pretty much whenever he wants. He just can't go and then slow down. Looks like he has gotten the jump on Creamy John's just a little bit. Creamy John's already falling back to 7/10 of a second gap. Down in fifth, we've got a really nice battle going for fourth between Stony, Gore, and Donstas. Donstas looking for a gap. 2 cars wide, not making it easy to find one. Gore gets through turn number 2 first, but cuts it. Might have gotten a warning there. It's got to be careful about those before he gets a penalty. Donstas in 5th, Stony in 6th, Kublai 7th, Shea B in 8th. Currently 2 wide into turn number 4. Williams side by side the Mercedes, not something we've seen in a long time. Mercedes ekes it out, but the Renault's going to get his nose in there as well. Of Kublai going to be challenging Stony for that position. Looks like he gets it. Going to next look to put his eyes on Gore. After Gore, Donstas, there's only 7/10 between them. The Renault of Kublai doing well to stick to the back of Gore. Gore staying right behind Donstas. Creamy John's 1.2 seconds behind. Some idiot is going to need to close that gap if he wants the benefit of the DRS. Hammer Time having a little bit of trouble, kind of getting hung out to dry. Rogue and Shea B getting past him easily. Nick, on the other hand, is going to need to do a little bit more to catch up. Rogue, only 3/10 behind Shea B. Going to look to make that pass any time here, especially with the DRS activation down the straight here. Doesn't actually get it this lap because we need to go 3 laps before the safety car is over. Creamy John's struggling, or working on closing that gap a little bit, trying to get into DRS range before he actually needs it. Rogue, with a snap of oversteer, goes wide on turn number 2. Can't quite hold it together. Gets it back on the course, no problem, but his tire temperatures are just so slightly out of whack, and gravel on his tires certainly doesn't help with the hards. Interesting from Rogue here. He's going to be able to, it was a nice save overall. I mean, obviously would have preferred not to do that, but for the most part he was able to get himself back on the track with a little bit of fuss, or only a little fuss, and not really too much drama in the rejoin. So that's always good to see from our drivers here. Shea B looking to make a move on Hammer Time just about any minute here. Hammer Time being really aggressive with his passes, needing to make up places on the hards because it's for race position at this point. What I mean by that is Donstas and Kublai are on slightly different strategies, so it's not going to be clear to where they come out strategy-wise until later in the race. Kublai and Dunstas really just want to be making pits or making passes non-stop, but welcome to a race. That's pretty much what every driver wants to do. It's going to be really important for their strategy, though, as we go. Are we going to go 3 wide into turn number 1? They're going to give it a shot. 3 wide into turn number 1. The Renault Kublai having to back out at the last second to give him just enough room. We've got Stoney and Hammertime both fighting furiously for position. Hammertime just taking position from Stoney not that long ago. Stoney looking to fight back almost immediately, but gets a lockup through turn number 4. That's definitely not going to help his case. It's going to give the run to Kublai. Kublai having to duck out of the way. I don't know if he wasn't expecting Stoney to pit that early, but he goes into the gravel trap. He's going to lose a lot of time. Kublai all the way from 7th, 8th to 11th. Very unfortunate for him. Needs to get his tires under control temperature-wise and the debris off of them if he's going to have a hope of getting back into the race. Now 4 seconds off of Rogue. Only one driver currently in the race looking to not score points, and that is Kublai currently. Even Rogue in 10th will get 1 point. Gap's starting to even out a little bit in our field here, but Rogue still looking for every opportunity he possibly can to get past Nick here. Rogue doing a pretty good job at finding the doors, but Nick doing a very good job of making his car as wide as possible. We're going to get a run down to Main Straight here. The McLaren is going to be able to inch itself out there. Pulls all the way ahead before turn number 1. Doesn't have to worry about it. Looks like he puts about 4/10 of space between himself and Nick. Nice gap created already. If he's able to increase that, even better for him. Rogue now within DRS range of Shea B, something he wasn't getting behind Nick for more than a few laps, but now he's going to be able to close that gap and hopefully increase the gap to Nick. I think that already shows, as Nick is 6/10 behind Rogue. Rogue 6/10 behind Shea B. Shea B only 8/10 behind Stoney. The two Red Bull drivers sitting about where they have been all season. 7th and 8th place is fitting, as Stoney is 7th in the Drivers' Championship and Shea B is 12th. So very close to where they have been sitting in relation to the other drivers, consistently in the points, and that'll be a nice haul of points for Red Bull. I think that's going to be very important as the season moves on, is just making every race with a representative from your team in order to take home that Constructors' Championship. Most consistent by far this season has been some idiot in Racing Point, along with his co-driver. Kublai with a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. Not going to help his case there. He already has 4.3 seconds to make up. He doesn't have time to be making up another 3 seconds based on a corner cutting penalty. He definitely didn't gain 3 seconds off the corner cutting, so it's a net loss for him. Kublai on those medium tires, only 5 laps old, going to look to make some passes soon, hopefully, and look to catch up to the rest of the pack that is on those hard tires. Rogue starting to fall back a little bit, is going to start to fall prey to Shea B and Nick, but Rogue seems to be in the business of creating gaps behind him. Now Shea B 1.2 seconds behind. Stoney now only 1 second off for Rogue. Really, it depends on when he's going to hit that timing line. Gets the DRS activation from Rogue, hopefully able to get a little closer. However, Stoney got the benefit as well because he's close enough to Gore. So both drivers getting the DRS activation benefit. However, that's going to not change through the next DRS detection zone here. Destio with the fastest lap of the session at a minute 18.0. Pit window is now open for our medium runners. Somewhere around 15 laps or so is not what any of them have done. So if someone started the race on mediums, that might be a viable option. Yellow flag, sector 3, Kublai. Looks like he's got some issues in a bad point in the track to have that happen as well. He's got to go all the way around the track. Bad place to be missing a wing. He's going to need another one of those. It'll be interesting to see how long it takes him to get back to the pit lane. Looks like he lost it in the last turn. Otherwise, he would have ducked into the pits, I'm sure, pretty much right away. Pit lane was open. Creamy John 0.6 of a second behind Destiel, able to hold on to that pace very, very nicely this season. Creamy John's finishing in the top 5 of Season 1, PPR PC D1, and finds himself in second for the Drivers' Championship so far. If Destiel were to take second in this race, he still is not going to have more points than Creamy John's, even if Creamy John's scores 0 points this race. Kublai now entering Sector 3. Looks like he's not going to get lapped through this interaction, at least before he gets into the pits, but spending so much time in the pits may put him in danger of getting lapped by some idiot. Destiel, Creamy John, and Donstas, which have a little bit of a DRS train up in the front here. Donstas starting to fall off ever so slightly. Nick with a 3-second time penalty. Going to help close that gap between Nick and Kublai, but Kublai is going to need a miracle because he has at least 6 seconds worth of time penalties so far. Nice battle going on for 8th here between Rogue, Shay B, and Nick. Not much of a gap between all of them currently. Nick in the Alfa Romeo, Shay B in that Red Bull, and Rogue in the McLaren. Want to take a quick second to thank everyone in chat for coming out. We've got Nick Moore, Funky Cactus, and Dr. McShorty. A couple of you actually in the race. So thanks for coming out and supporting the stream. Couldn't do it without you. We like hanging out here, having some good discussion about the race. So what do you think the drivers are going to do here? Are they going to go right from hard to softs, or are they going to try and maybe go to the mediums from these hards to get that extra grip out of their tire? Shay B looks like he's about ready to make a move any minute here. Going to look to duck out from behind Rogue at the last second here. Has DRS and the slipstream. Not going to be quite aggressive enough to get the job done from Shay B, but not really going to increase the gap to Nick either, so that is not really a huge loss for him. However, Rogue bouncing around, at least on my screen, like crazy. That's going to be hard to race with, going in and out of range like that, so let's hope that is not what Shay B is seeing, and that's just on my end, because that makes everything that much more difficult to not crash into another car when you can't even tell where they're going to be. But for now, Shay B is going to stay as close as he possibly can and will potentially get that overtake done if the opportunity presents itself. BPR Nick 1 second behind Shay B here. Creamy John 0.6 of a second behind Destiel, still going to get that DRS advantage. But whether it's going to be enough or not, I am unsure. So he's going to pass the DRS detection zone likely under a second behind Destiel. Now there will be a line on the track coming up here, and that is going to be symbolize the detection zone. I think it's going to be after turn number 7. Turn number 8, there it is. There's the timing line. Detects if the gap is under a second at that point, and it is. Creamy Johns gets the DRS activation. Going to be able to take that gap from 0.8 down to 0.6, but does get a lockup. He's going to lose some of that advantage he gained. Now going up about 0.9 of a second gap. That's definitely going to hurt him. Kublai still hurting from the extra wing change in 11. Not going to be able to make that up. Stoney, 3-second time penalty. What Kublai really needs is a safety car, otherwise he's not going to be able to catch up to the rest of the pack. They're just way too far out in front. Kublai may have the pace on quite a few of them, but he doesn't have the time to get that many laps around the track, which would allow him to close that gap in a decent amount of time. But he just doesn't have the time. He's running out. So Kublai, 1 lap on those hards. He did pit. I think he's going to be able to take those hards to the end of the race. Again, 21 laps on those hards. That's going to put him at 39 laps. Should be able to make that no problem. So his goal right now is just to get within pit range of any of the drivers, because we know Nick is going to have to pit at some point. JB, Rogue, and Stony will as well. Gore, probably, Hammer Time, Don Stas, Creamy John, Destiel, and Some Idiot. Likely all have one pit stop left in them. Creamy John's Destiel, even intervals between Some Idiot, Destiel, and Creamy John's all running fairly close to each other is Nick and Shay B. Nick is going to look to get this move done as he has been for the past 19 laps. A bit of a lockup for Nick there into turn number 10. Putting some excess wear on those tires, that's certainly not going to help his case. Trying to get them to go further. Don Stas into the pits for a new set of tires now. Opts for those hard tires. Is going to more than get him to the end of the race. Going to try for the undercut on the hards. Very interesting choice from Don Stas. He knows that everyone else is going to have to pit as well. Decides to go onto the hards, and right now gave himself a very nice 3.8 second gap between himself and Rogue. However, puts him a little bit at risk from Shay B. Nice job shooting that points gap, though. Going to stay in 9th, going to get at least 2 points. Or no, 4 points from 8th place. Very nice from him there. Looks like Don Stas should have no problem keeping out in front. Just the fresher, hard tires are really going to make pretty much all the difference at this point. Rowe getting very close to Stoney, actually giving him a little bit of a bump there. As you saw, I don't think he sustained any wing damage. I didn't see any bits flying off or anything quite like that. But Rogue starting to get impatient at this point in the race with 13 laps to go. There's not a whole lot of time to be putting on you and another driver, especially if you still have to pit yet. Don Stas on those 0-lap old hards, 3.5 seconds now behind Rogue, is just going to look to decrease that. Rogue gets the pass done on Stoney. Now hopefully free to start making some headway, because Don Stas is coming up behind, not extremely fast, but he is coming, so Stoney has to be on the lookout for that. Looks like Rogue is going to be able to break the DRS stream between himself and Stoney pretty much no problem. Rogue not quite catching up to Gore at the moment, but already 2/10 above where he started. Double lockups from Gore and Rogue there. Destiel looking to close that gap between himself and Some Idiot. Destiel now down to a 1.2 second interval. Sector 3 yellow flag. We get the Renault of Kublai. Looks like he's gone around. Gonna try and get that moving again. Looks like he slots in just ahead of Hammer Time in the AlphaTauri. Likely where his first incident happened. Often drivers have parts of the track like that that they are always struggle with. Whether it be an extra curb, whether the angle not be quite right, whether maybe your setup is a little off. Every driver has a little bit of a weakness when it comes to certain curves. Rogue just pulling into that DRS range. Is going to need to keep that. As Stoney runs wide, is going to lose a bunch of time to Rogue. Now stays out of that DRS range. Very unfortunate from Stoney. Clipped that gravel. Throwing a bunch all over the track. Stewards are going to want to watch for that as well as the drivers. Nick back into DRS range of Shay B. Rogue should be able to stay in DRS range here, but that is easier said than done. Looks like he's going to cross over the timing line within the range, so he will get the DRS activation, which means the rear wing opens up. Rogue is going to close that gap, goes down to 0.7 between himself and Gore. A nice, healthy increase in points through, or decrease in the gap through the DRS advantage there. Yellow flag sector 3 is the Renault of Kublai goes into the pits and retires. Let's hope the AI keeps him there. Now, every driver finishing this race tonight will get points. Shay B, currently the driver to get the least amount of points, but still will get points in 10th. Kublai did as he was supposed to and retired in the pits, but the AI has other ideas, going to try and get him back out here. Hopefully that doesn't cause any major issues for our drivers still left on track. Gore and Rogue going at it quite intensely here. Three times fine from Rogue. Rogue falls quite a bit behind after not quite hooking it up out of the exit. Gore getting a much better line. Looks like we're going to have a nice challenge from Donstas to Stoney as well. This is exactly what Donstas hopes to be doing, is charging his way up through the field here and undercutting all these drivers with much fresher tires. Only 2 laps on him. He's going to have quite the traction advantage against Stoney, who's had his hard tires on for 14 laps. With 10 laps to go, I think Donstas only having to go 12 laps on those hards is actually a really good call. I think he's sitting in a pretty good position where he doesn't have to pit no matter what. If a safety car comes out in the next probably 2 laps, I don't think you pit. If it does after that, I think maybe you pit for softs, because that just really depends on what everyone else is doing. You can't be on 6-lap old hards and have everyone else on brand new softs and expect to come out of that well. So Donstas, he's got options, but I'd like to see him take these tires to the end of the race, barring any major strategy change in the race. Ooh, Donstas hitting just the back of Stoney, cutting that very close. Stoney with a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings there. So Donstas may not need to pass him on track. However, I suspect he's going to want to, because with 10 laps left, he's going to be able to close the gap between the driver in 6th that much earlier. Gonna try again after the DRS straight. Not gonna quite get it done. Going into sector 3 here. Donstas going to make the run down into turn number 1. Definitely gets the job done, but can he make it stick through the chicane that is turn number 1 and turn number 2? Donstas keeps it ahead around 1. Keeps that ahead around 2, but it looks like Stoney may have gotten a slightly better exit. But Stoney knowing to crack a little bit under pressure at times, as shown already by his 3-second time penalty that he incurred, fought with leading Donstas there. So Donstas already has that going for him. Stoney really 3.7 seconds behind him, but overall not too terrible. Rogue 3/10 behind Gore. I imagine is going to be able to make this pass pretty much any day now. Rogue, one of those drivers where he has very good pace. Consistency is most of the way there, but Gore, very consistent. Less pace though, so it'll be interesting to see how these drivers stack up. Rogue with the lockup on turn number 10 there of the front left. Going to put a lot of strain on that tire. Currently about 90, mid-90s, upper 90s for his front left, which is very hot for the hards. They're definitely not going to like that. They're going to wear out a little prematurely, but if the plan is to replace them, I don't think that is a huge issue at this point. Now that we're getting into the final stages of the race here, we're going to have to start thinking about final tire strategies. Rogue gets the pass done on Gore. Not going to be able to make it stick because Gore runs him wide. Rogue knows he has to go really shallow. Oh, overcooks it on the side. Can't get the traction down in the runoff area. Hits the wall, snaps off his front wing. Can't get the tire temperatures under control here. Spins around, snaps off the rest of the front wing. Rogue retiring on track. Very dangerous maneuver from him, and very unfortunate for the rest of our drivers as well. The stewards are definitely going to have a look at that one, because that is not allowed. Rogue breaking the rules. They're a little bit expecting to get some penalty points for next week at this point. Luckily, no safety car at the moment. Donstas with 0.2 of a second gap behind Gore. That gap has remained pretty much consistent Still saying yellow flag sector 1 and 2. Only seeing sector 1 at the moment. Dunstas looking to get the run down into turn number 1. This time with DRS activation. Goes to the outside. Is going to get squeezed by the Williams. Williams has the right to the racing line on the exit, but Dunstas isn't going to give it up quite that easily. Sticks his nose in there, but it could have been at risk of losing a wing. Dunstas now starting to weasel his way in there. Gets a little bit better exit on the entry to turn number 4. Exit to turn number 3. Going around the slightly more than hairpin at this point. Around the high-speed turn of turn number 7. He is going to have to keep the car under him behind the Williams with less front downforce. Is going to look to make the move here. Gets the DRS activation down the straight. I think he's going to get it done. Goes around the outside. The Williams not giving him much space, but giving him just enough. They touch tires, typically not enough to cause any damage. That Williams playing a risky game there. Destiel 7/10 behind some idiot is gonna look to make the rest of that up through DRS. Gets the DRS activation down this straight, for example. Both drivers at very similarly worn tires at 19 laps now. Pirelli saying that those tires can go only 21 laps. So at this point, taking them to the end of the race would mean pushing them far beyond their limit as Gore goes off the track, spins that Williams around. Looks like he has all of his wing, but is going to need to make up that time. So still in the points as long as he finishes the race. Maxime in the chat making the comment, why would Rogue retire? Very good question, because Rogue at least had 1 point up for grabs, and McLaren, with where they're seated in the Constructors' Championship in second with 108 points, 2 racing points, 122, I think would be jumping at the chance to get any more points that they possibly could. Even if it's 108 to 109, that may make that may matter at the end of the season. Creedy Johns is going to get in third, so that's going to be a decent haul of points. And some idiot looking like he's going to get first or second. So the other team closing the gap may be Mercedes, but for any team to close the gap all the way, they're going to need a lot of effort. Mercedes currently running as second and fifth. Very nice positioning from them currently points-wise. Some idiot pulling a little extra pace out of his back pocket with 1.4 second interval to Destiel. Is going to comfortably hold on to that one out of DRS range. Not going to need that. We're not going to allow Destiel to have that DRS, which if you can is probably safe. Some idiot going off the track there ever so slightly. Looks like he may have knocked down the gap ever so slightly between himself and Destiel. Not quite. I mean, it's still at 1.7 or so, which is still quite a strong gap. Not a whole lot to worry about, but some idiot can't make too many more mistakes. Otherwise, Destiel is going to have to capitalize on those. This is the length that the tires are meant to go. 21 laps on these hards. Shea B deciding to pit again for mediums and not have to deal with it. However, finding himself 44.8 seconds behind PPR Nick. Gore, on the other hand, fell victim to the tires. Currently 7th with 20 laps on those. Stoney 21 laps on his. Dunstas on the freshest. Going to be a driver to watch here. 17.4 seconds between himself and Hammer Time. Does not really lead me to believe he's going to be making up that much time. Definitely has the tires to make the pass. 9 laps versus the 21 lap old hards. However, there's no guarantee that that's actually going to be happening. Destiel now 1.8 seconds behind some idiot, doing his best he can to make that up, but currently not making it happen. Some idiot liking where he's sitting now in the last 2 races of China and the Netherlands. He's placed third, so still on the podium, but not quite where he wants to be. Nick with a 3-second time penalty. Nick, interesting story from him this year. A DNF in the first race, 11th in Bahrain. Nothing from him since, but now seeing him resurface in Spain, a nice sight to see. Nice sight to see him in something higher than 11th or a DNF as well so far. So looking at him down in position number 8, 3.3 seconds to go to Gore. Certainly a closable gap. However, on those tires, I don't think either driver is really going to be wanting to push. So Nick might be able to take advantage of that a little bit. However, he's going to need to make up about 1.15, 1.2 seconds per lap or so in order to close that gap. And currently the only thing that gap is doing is increasing between himself and Gore. Not going to help his case if he wants to make that pass. Donstas doing his best to close that gap, still sitting at 17.5, looking pretty unrealistic. Destiel with a 3-second time penalty. Greenman-Johns is really going to be liking that, as that closes his gap to Destiel. Of course, Greenman-Johns may have some time penalties of his own. Some idiot I don't believe I've seen has a time penalty yet, but Destiel still hanging out in the 3.0 second range, to where some idiot has 3 more seconds of time penalties than Destiel. Destiel may just take home first. However, that is still looking rather unlikely. Some idiot 23 laps into his hard stint. 2 laps over target at the moment, and 2 more laps projected to be gone on these tires. Very interesting strategy. Shea B goes into the pits. Comes out, not sure if he's got a new wing, but certainly has a new set of tires. Hopefully going to go for the fastest lap here. Going to be able to get an extra point for Red Bull. As Shea B at this point, yes, 1.08 seconds behind Nick in 8th. However, that finds himself ever so slightly lapped by his teammate Stoney. Stoney going to be able to give him a very nice slipstream and DRS activation down both straights on the track to hopefully set that fastest lap. So Shea B should be taking home, even if he stays in 9th, 3 points if he goes fastest on those tires. And I imagine he will. If he is on the radio with Stoney's team, they will do the best they can to give him the largest slipstream they are able, and therefore give him the best chance at making up the positions. Destiel decides it's time for tires now. Destiel, why now? Sees the gap a little bit between Donstas, but with 1 lap left, dropping down below Hammer Time. I just can't say it was worth it. Hammer Time is really going to like that. Hammer Time currently in 9th with 22 points in the Drivers' Championship, but coming in 3rd would be a major infusion to points. 15 points total would bring him up to 37 points, rivaling 5th place or so for the same amount of points. Destiel doesn't look like he's going to be able to catch it up, but that's going to put a wrench in Shea B's plan. I think Shea B is going to end up setting a fastest lap first, and then Destiel is going to respond almost immediately. So good luck to Shea B, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold on to that. Nick with a similar strategy. Pits onto those softs. Very, very weird last lap, guys. I mean, why? I mean, I guess there's no reason for Nick not to, because he's not going to make up 20 seconds in the last lap on Gore. But he doesn't have time to set a time trial either, because at this point he's already started the lap and he's going to finish it. Or he's going to finish it, the race is going to be over, and he's going to spend part of it in the pit lane. None of that is going to get him much faster than he was. Some idiot on the last lap here, entering Sector 2 for the last time. No DRS activation coming up on the back marker of PPR. Nick gonna look to make a pass before we're over here. Shea B looking to go on a flying lap here behind his teammate. I wonder how long he's gonna stay behind him. Don't know if this will be their chance at setting a record lap. I believe it will be, because now he's going to remain in that DRS range. They're going to try and get that DRS activation. Maybe pass him on the first straight here. I think that's what the plan should be, because after you get down the straight, I don't think following another driver that closely really has a whole lot of merit. Some idiot crosses the finish line, goes first place with 26 laps on those hards. Very, very impressive. Creamy Johns comes home in second. Hammer Time getting across the line next. Of course, time penalties might have to shake themselves out ever so slightly. Hammer Time third for now until Destiel crosses the line. Destiel goes fourth. Donstas with a few penalties of his own. Destiel, fastest lap with a 1:16, I believe that was. Donstas now comes down the main straight, goes across the finish line, finishes in fifth. Does make up some time on Destiel as far as time penalties go. Stoney is going to be the next one to cross. Currently still helping Shea B with a little bit of a tow. Shea B not able to improve the fastest lap time. So Stoney and Shea B, that's where they will finish. Stoney in 6th, Shea B in 9th. Gore not moving any positions from time penalties. Only one left with the chance to do that is Nick. And judging by how far back he is on Gore, that does seem unlikely. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is Spain for you. PPR Esports season number 2, PC Division 1, no assist league. Congratulations to some idiot, Creamy Johns. And was it Destiel? No, it was one of our Mercedes drivers. PPR Nick, driver of the day, for hanging in there, getting up into 8th place from relatively low places. Good for him. Racing Point, the big winner of the day. However, Mercedes did not fare too poorly either, with 2 drivers up in the top 10, or top 5 really. McLaren doing the same, going to be able to get a decent haul of points on the board for themselves. There you have it. Time penalties galore, except for our top 3 drivers of some idiot, Creamy Johns and Hammer Time. Destiel in 4th, Donstas in 5th, Stoney in 6th, Gore 7th, Nick 8th, Shea B in 9th, and that rounds out those that finished the race. Rogue, Guble, Ruda, and Dr. McShorty all with DNFs. Unfortunate races for them, but Destiel taking home that extra fastest lap. Very nice lap from him. However, I think I would have liked to see him not pit in the last lap and hold on to that 3rd position, unless he just really was not comfortable that that could happen. Mercedes 4th and 5th. Very nice showing from them. That is going to get them very high in the Constructors' Championship points. Might put them all the way up into 3rd, especially considering Red Bull had a little rougher weekend. However, Stoney and Shea B, not too bad, faring pretty well out of that. Hammer Time for AlphaTauri gaining some good points, but Creamy John solidifying his place as the number 2 driver in the league via Drivers' Championship points with that 2nd place. Congratulations to him. There you have it. Look at that. There's that stack up for our drivers. Moving on, there we have it. That was Spain this week. Thank you everyone for joining us. We are not going to be doing driver interviews this evening. So thank you everyone for coming out. I like to see everyone in the chat. We've got Jeb is out here, Funky Cactus as well, Maxime, Dr. McShorty, Nick Moore. Thank you for making it such a good place to stream and a good, I guess, environment to stream in. Thank you very much for your participation each and every week. Again, do not forget we have other race leagues, including PC Division 2 Wednesday night, where you'll see the reunion of Cosmo and Kermit on track. He is able to show up that week, or that night. We will be on the track trying to tear it up. 2 different teams, however, we'll be working together to get the best result as we can. So join us again, same time on Wednesday evening, and we'll get some great action in here. Thank you everyone that participated in the race and watched tonight. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of your night.
Destination unknown. Destination unknown.